Hey guys, what's going on? It's the NRL Fantasy Fanatic coming at you with Supercoach round number 3 from an amazing round number 2. We absolutely killed it, and as you can see from the top, we've just reached into the top 1,000 out of 129,801 coaches out there, which is absolutely amazing. A good start to the year is always pinnacle when you're trying to get to those top spots at the mid to late part of the year. And we didn't make any trades last week, which was great, so we've banked on a few of those. We waited and evaluated to see what players would do well in week 2 to know that we could get the maximum price adjustment when it comes into week 3, when the prices move for the first time after they've played 3 full weeks of footy. And I'm glad we did that because there were a few traps out there that people just dove into and made a couple of mistakes getting into players that are either now injured or they've been impacted by COVID and now they're stuck with someone who won't be playing, and they may have to make another trade in order to get there, but didn't reap any benefit of a price adjustment for doing so. But the first thing I really want to do, and I love this feature about Supercoach more than anything, more than its counterpart with the NRL Fantasy itself, is the fact that you can actually see the players that are traded out and into squads. So I want to do a quick analysis and give you some input from my side of what I think and if I think they're good trades or bad trades. Some of them you kind of have to make because the break-evens are that high. Some of them are because there's been new information about that player. They've switched spots. They've now gone to the bench. They're now in the reserve list, and so you're trying to save yourself by making a bit of bang for buck. And some of the trade-ins look a little bit desperate to make cash early on. So we'll have a look at that right now from the top down to the bottom. The number one, and this is Wednesday. This is Wednesday afternoon, so we've had one full day after Team List Tuesday. So this is probably a really good indication of where everyone else is thinking right now. And so the number one trade out, including myself, was Angus Crichton. Now, Angus Crichton has been a little bit disappointing. He has a very high break-even. I believe it's just over the 100 mark. And the fact that he's been moved to the bench kind of illustrates that he will be low scoring for the next week. And so he looks to be losing a whole bunch of cash as well as mainly Supercoach points that we desperately need in order to keep climbing the ladder. So I'm fully on top and agree with that move. I can see where people are coming from. The Katoni Stags is an interesting one. I feel like he's had a good two games back on the trot for the Bronx. He did get outscored by his other centre counterpart with Herbie Farnworth. It is what it is. Centres are never going to be your highest scoring players. Well, at least consistently. There'll be games where they'll get a double or a triple and they've absolutely killed it. But the reality is they're never going to be able to consistently score. I do think there's a lot of better centre options that we picked up in round 1 that you could have just filled the holes in for now. I can kind of undersee where the trade's coming from. But if people are going sideways, like moving into like a Gagai or someone else, I think that's a bit of a desperate move when we know that Katoni Stags does have the big scores in him. Tommy Trbojevic, look, no surprises here. We knew that he was at an all-time high price at $1.2 to $1.3 million straight off the cuff. It would have absorbed a lot of your salary to begin with, your starting cap. Obviously, people are trying to save face by moving him out ASAP so they don't get the huge downturn of his next game, which I always use multiple sources when I'm looking at this type of thing, and of course the break-evens. The break-evens here do give you a really good story on what that looks like, and so for Tommy, where are we looking? It's 314, which means he's probably going to lose. In fact, it will tell us here he's going to be losing $127,000 unless he has an all-time high breaking score above 300. That's going to be the reality. And I think it was a high-risk, low-reward situation. There were so many better options that you kind of could have just filled in the gap with, like Teddy or Papenhuyzen on one of the more cheaper wing fullbacks. So it's come back to bite people a little bit. Brian To'o, he's out. Won't be back till round 9 or 11, according to Supercoach. Being that he's outside Tago, he hasn't got that much ball compared to previous years. I feel like in the first 2 games, they weren't kicking to him much to bring the ball back, so he wasn't getting those, those tackle busts that he would usually get when he would do those big hit-ups, being a bigger winger coming back on the return. So no surprises. Injury, you've got to fill that gap. 736,000 is a lot of money to be sitting on your bench, so I can totally understand where people are coming from with that one. David Fifita, I'm a little bit surprised. Look, I did go and see him in the first week of the NRL with the Parramatta Eels versus the Titans. He was, even though he played 80 minutes, he was hanging out in the wing to get his breath every now and then. He didn't play the full 80 last week against the Warriors. I actually think that he may not be 100% fit at the moment, or he may be lacking a little bit cardio that he has in the prior year. He may get a rocket shot up him this week that he needs to really pick up his game and have a lot more carries and runs. I think that was his biggest deal breaker at the moment. I don't think he's a trade out just yet. I think there's so many other players that you should be trading out before you're giving Fifita the flick. So I think that could be a little bit sideways, because at the end of the day, he'll most likely be a keeper in the long term. So I'm going to be holding on to him. Jackson Hastings, halves don't score well when the pack around them isn't doing that well. And we know the Tigers have been a bit of a heartbreak case at the moment. They're desperately trying to sort out their team at the moment. They've got players going to the pokies. It's all on the paper. It looks a bit of a schmozzle at the moment. They almost beat the Storm. They could have beaten the Storm. They just needed to strangle them but couldn't get it done. Lachlan Ilias, I can understand people are moving him out. I'm a bit 50-50 on this guy right now. He has a break-even about 22, 23 points. I don't think he's going to be losing money anytime soon. You may be trying to bring in someone else to kind of fill in that spot, like a Nico Hines, who you think is going to be of great value, or even a Will Smith, just for the basis of break-evens, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Cody Walker. Same story as kind of Jackson Hastings. Cody Walker has been in both Rabbitohs games where they haven't been high-scoring games, and so he just hasn't been getting the tries himself. You know, it's been a little bit rough for Cody. I can see what people are doing with the trade that they're making. They don't want to lose the 90 grand, so I can kind of understand that. Stefano's an interesting one, because I don't know what people were... I'm not really 100% sure what people were predicting with Stefano in the first place, if they thought he was going to have a completely blitz year. I thought it was going to be much the same as last year, and that he was priced where he probably belonged. Sometimes he did come off the bench at the tail end of last year, but when he didn't, his scores didn't really change that much either way. He seems to be a real impact player, where he'll come on, score some high points in the time that he's on the field, and then after a while he'll kind of fade a little bit, probably most likely on cardio. Reed Marnie. Now, I've got Reed. I'm not trading him out. People are looking to bring in either Will Smith or Appy Coruscant for him, because Appy's got a -4 break-even. It's kind of a like-for-like trade. Reed Marnie's got like 97 or 93 break-even. I can understand that trade. I think it's just... I think people are making that trade way too early. The fact is, he scored 59 last week in a low-scoring game. Eels only scored 2 tries. It was a bit of a rough game as well. I don't think he's a trade out. I can understand people are trying to look for those easy cash outs with Appy and Will, but I think Reed again is a keeper, and so if you're moving keepers around, unless there's new information like Angus Crichton going to the bench, I think you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot just making trades for the sake of making trades. For all we know, week 3, Appy could have a quiet game. Reed could have a completely blitzkrieg game. In addition, if Nathan Cleary comes back next week, does that mean he's going to be demanding way more ball from Appy and we're going to have less dummy half runs? We're not really sure at the moment what that looks like. It's possible, but I'm just not convinced I'm making that trade yet. I think it's kind of a like for like, and there are better routes to make money. So the trade-ins. Nico Hines absolutely killed it against Para. Could have got higher scores if he was goal kicking on point, but it was a bit, hey, how you going? Luckily, he kicked the last one to win the game for his team. Unluckily for me, being a Para fan. I can see what people are doing. Fullback, half. The half position's a bit of a hit and miss at the moment with who you should be playing. I've got Jack White in there, along with Lachlan. Billy Kickow. Look, for me, no-brainer. I've gone from Angus Crichton to Billy. I can't really see a reason not to do that. Billy came off a huge game. The thing about Kickow is that he can hold that spot and be a gun for the rest of the year. He doesn't have origin duties, being that he plays internationally. I just think I can totally get behind that trade. -5 break even. If he just gets an average score, it says here he's going to make 60k on the trot. Peter Hiku's an interesting one because even though he's got a negative break even of 21, we know Hiku's a bit hit and miss. He's rocks and diamonds. He'll have some good games, some bad ones. Fortunate for him, his first 2 games were really good. He even got that toe poke last weekend against the Raiders that ended up being a try assist, as crazy as it was. I think people are trying to chase the cash, and I can understand it. I just think there are so many better options. And I believe long-term, even mid-term, you're going to have to trade Hiku out. But I may look to bring him in. Not 100% sold just yet. We'll see where we come up with that one. Maxi King, I'm glad people are bringing him in. The reality is I had him from the start. I think most people would have. It was an easy fill-in for the forward position. He's absolutely killing it. Break-even of -45. You can't go wrong. He's just going to be making more money. And he's only one suspension away. One of his teammates, that is Jack Hetherington, Pengai Jr., any of those players, Jackson, getting an easy suspension and then starting in the squad and potentially even getting higher points than what he's currently been getting. Clifford. People are, again, chasing the dollars. Again, the 5'8 position's been difficult to fill. I can get behind that. Dane Gagai consistently scoring in the center position is one of the best scoring centers in our game at the moment. I can see that people are bringing him in for totally understand it. I can get behind that as well. Will he always have those amazing games? That's yet to be seen. He seems to be absolutely killing it for the Knights. His break-even is 10. He's not going to be making money hand over fist, but he looks to be solid as a choice. If you needed a fill, if you're looking for a center wing who's going to be filling in that spot, getting some really good scores, highly involved, I think he's the guy to go to. Joshie King's an interesting one. I can understand what people are doing. They need to fill in that forward position. The only thing I'm a little bit suspect on him is that the reality is when Brandon Smith and Harry Grant come back, I suspect that he moves to the bench, and then we'll start seeing the regular Josh King scores come out. If you're looking for a quick trade and then trade out in 3 weeks, this might be a solution, but I think there's so many better options with such lower risk than Josh King. See how that plays out for those coaches. Api Carousel. If you've got a hooker spot that you need to fill and you're like, well, I can bring in Appy as a keeper, and you're doing 2 trades, bringing out Crichton in the second row for someone else for a cheaper option than bolstering your hooker spot. Totally get behind it. I'm not a big believer of the Reed Marnie trade. Tago, I think that's a no-brainer. I think you've got to bring him in. And Payne Haas, I'm actually more surprised that, not that he's been brought in now, because he's been consistently scoring well in his first 2 weeks. Solid captain's choice. Just the fact that people are only bringing him in now. Like, I really would have thought that a lot more people would have had him from the start. His break-even's 39. Easy money, but I'm just surprised more people weren't filling him in the squad in the first place, but it is what it is. And so looking at my squad, I'm actually really happy with the way that they went. As I mentioned previously in this video, the 2 trades I'm looking at is Crichton to kick out. I'm chasing that break even. I'm chasing a keeper. I'm getting rid of someone who's a high risk at the moment, moving to the bench. And potentially, this is a bit of a left field trade. Not many people seem to be doing the same thing I'm doing here, but Momo from the Knights doesn't seem to be getting the minutes. He's averaging, I think, about 20 points. His break-even's 33. He's not going to be making money. I've got money up my sleeve, and so I thought I'd bring in Nate Butcher because he's starting in the second row. Yes, his 114 score was completely over-exaggerated, and he won't be scoring that next week, or at least I don't think he will be, if stats are anything to go by, but he's moved into the starting spot. His break-even is -18. He could be someone who makes cash for me over the next 4 to 5 weeks while I sort out the rotation in the second row for the Roosters spot. I feel very comfortable bringing him in, and one of the main reasons is because if I chase someone like a Hiku instead of a Nate Butcher, I'm then running the risk of having to reserve a player who might not consistently score well, like an Amone or I got to work out this front row rotation, or a Thompson or a King off the bench. Whereas I'd rather have Nate Butcher come in, start on the game. Again, it only takes 1 or 2 Roosters injuries in that side for him to actually play that 80 minutes and get that full score. Roosters do have a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to the next couple of weeks of games. They've got the Rabbitohs. They've got, following that game, they've got the Cowboys. We're not 100% sure if Nate Butcher will be holding the spot. The following week after that, on the 8th of April, they're playing the Broncos. So there may be some easy scoring games. I don't want to trade out Tuilagi just yet. I know people have gone ham on him and like, oh, he's not playing. The reality is he's back next week. Break even of 4. All I want to do in this squad is just make solid decisions. I don't want to be making high risk, low payoff decisions or like for likes, because I just can't see the payoff. So the 2 trades I made is Kikau coming in and Nate Butcher, trying to capitalize on his break even. But looking at the squad, I've got Curran, Fifita, Haas, Bullemor. I don't know if I'm going to have Bullemor in there at the start, or Maxi King, or Leo Thompson. Probably trade in a Maxi King. Not 100% sure at this stage. Could do it last minute. We've got Moses, Schneider, Whiten, Lachlan, Bird, Aitken, Tago, Penasini. Kind of telling you why I don't need to bring in Hiku just yet, because I've got a couple of second rows playing in my center spot, as well as Penasini and Tago, and they're doing a solid job for me. There's no need for me to trade those out. Pap and Tedesco. So I've got a pretty mean, lean fighting machine across. Now, one thing I have been entertaining is doing my boost trades and trading in another person who's going to be making a lot of bang for buck. Potentially a Will Smith with his ridiculous break-even score. I'll just double confirm what that is. I remember looking at it just before. Negative 41. Now, he is not a keeper. He is a quick trade out. The reality is it could be potentially a high payoff. If I burn one of my third trades just to make some easy money now, that could help me bring in like a Nathan Cleary earlier or another gun earlier than intended. I didn't burn any trades in the first week because I was very suspicious about certain players. I didn't want to get caught up because I know there could be things adjust from week 2, such as injuries, and so I wanted to capitalize this week on the amount of dollar movements because it's the third week, and that's when the biggest movements are generally happening after they play the third game. So Will Smith is an option from Lachlan into Will Smith. I'm not particularly worried about Lachlan losing money because it's 22, so I don't know if I have to make that trade just yet. The other thing I was considering is bringing in Wilton next week, and how I would do that is I'd bring him into this slot here. Firma would go down to Amone's spot. Amone would then kick Ilias, and so it'd be a 3-way trade, and that's one of the best benefits you can have when you've got so many dual position players. And we spoke about that in week 1, where I brought in Firma for the very sake of having a second row center position, as well as Jack Bird and Aitken, because I can just easily move around the pieces to fit the puzzle and to back up other players in case there are injuries. Now, I do have a couple of red dots, Koula and Schiller. I'm not particularly worried because my team overall is doing well, and because these are the lowest priced players in the entire comp. It's not like I have to make trades in order to make money, because if I make a trade to someone else and they don't make money, then it's a bit of a lost opportunity because I would have spent whatever I needed in order to trade up. So I'm kind of happy to have them there. For all we know, either player could be 1 or 2 injuries away from getting another spot and going up in value. I believe they'll also be good for potential origin cover, depending upon who's picked in the squads. But coming around to that later period of the season, I think that'll be ideal. I'm not a big believer in the center position as high scorers anyway, because they may not get a lot of ball. I understand there are some wingers who are exceptions, or centers who are exceptions to that, because they may get a try. They're more likely to get a try than others. But low reward, high risk is kind of the name of the game. So I'm a little bit stuck what I want to do with that trade. I may make the Will Smith trade. I may just chase early coin. It doesn't matter if they're non-players. If, I'm not going to reserve Will Smith. It's not going to be a concern if I'm just chasing the dollars. I am only concerned if it does bite me in the ass. Like if Jack Whiten gets injured, then I'm like, oh snap, what am I going to do here? Because Do I then have to play Will Smith? Do I then have to trade Jack White out? And so I'm trying to be smart about this, but I also want to capitalize on the most amount of cash, and I want to bring in those earlier guns to fill in those spots. But I don't want to burn through trades just yet. So I've got a lot of trades up my sleeve because we didn't do anything last week. Pretty happy with that. Let me know down below what trades you're looking to make in your team. Pretty excited this week. I think it's going to be a big week. I'm liking what I've got. I'm just looking to play consistent Supercoach. Super coaching. I don't want to be making erratic moves. I might trade back the Nate Butcher trade last minute. I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to see how that plays out. Before we do end the video, let's just have a quick look at who's ranked number 1. What's going well for them? Are there any weaknesses that we could potentially capitalize on? And we've got this on the right. I just want to make sure you guys can see this. You can. We've got Appy, Chris Randall, Payne Haas, Mawoka, Josh King, Max King, Luke Thompson. A little bit interested in that one. Corey, Kickow, Yao, Bullemor, Brandon, so he's got that cheap play. He's not playing at all. So this is a bit of an interesting one because it looks as though he's trying to fill in those extra gaps with players that aren't playing, but the cheapest that they potentially are. Just so he can make the most amount of dollars out of it. In fact, there's 10% of players. Maybe he thought he was actually going to get a starting spot, but just hasn't. Daly Cherry Evans, Schneider, Luai, Lachlan. Oh, he did reserve Lachlan. That's okay because he's got Gagai, Kelly, Tago, and Penasini to make up for it in the centers. He had Amone, Viliami, Schiller, Dylan Edwards as captain. That would have hurt a little bit. Nicholas Hines. So as you can see, when things go well for you, it's easy to make those decisions early. Like this gentleman here, he's absolutely killing it. Go Banana is his name, Kiani. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. But yeah, every squad, as you can see, even at the top, can make some beneficial trades this week, or some better captains options, or it looks to me like we've actually got quite a bit of a misfit of players compared to my squad, so we're not like for like, which is great to see across Supercoach, because that's what we'd want to see is more uniqueness. So he has also spent pretty much the top dollar at 9,999,000, so he won't have much money to trade up. He'll be probably looking to make more trades to make more bang for buck, but it's easily catchable. We're only, if I scroll down, if he's 2,221, if I scroll down here, ladies and gents, keep going down. And be sure, guys, hit that subscribe button down below. Also hit that like button. I super appreciate it. It makes my videos a little bit more visible to the public when that happens. But if we're scrolling down, we're about probably 200 to 300 points behind, I believe. Almost there. We should be anywhere around here. So 2006. Yeah, this is where we are. 2000. This is about the right rank. So we're only 200 or so points behind the leader. It's absolutely nothing. That could be one player not getting a start. That could be one player not going off the Richter scale. And so I'm pretty happy with that. We just got to make the right trades in order to catch up. Nothing desperate, guys. All I can say is if you're in the top, say 10,000, don't be making any super desperate trades. Keep it smart. Keep your head on your shoulders. Don't let emotions get the best of you. And best of luck for week 3. Enjoy. Whoosh.